Hello, and welcome to the Watership Down podcast, episode 30, in which I will be introducing part 3 of the book and by pure coincidence going through chapter 30. I had long planned to pause going through the book for 2 episodes at the end of part 2. As it turned out, that was quite fortunate under our current family circumstances. However, I am back on track now and determined that this podcast will keep going as planned. One other minor piece of Burrowkeeping. From now on, I will very strictly deal with 1 chapter per episode, especially during the events of part 3. I actually cannot believe I ever went through 3 chapters in 1 episode, as in episode 5, and that will not happen again. Introduction to Part 3. Parts 1 and 3 of Watership Down are basically not set on the Down at all. In the case of Part 1, that is understandable, as it concerns the events that lead up to the arrival on Watership Down. However, Part 3 is set after the Warren on Watership Down has been established, yet the only part of it set on Watership Down comes right at the start of its first chapter, with the departure of the Great Raid on Efrafa. The Great Raid is arguably an antagonistic act of interference in another culture. As things stand, Efrafa is no threat to the Watership Down Warren, but there are apparently no other sources of does available nearby. This has never seemed credible to me, but anyway, we'll go along with it. So, a Warren run along fair and egalitarian lines is about to deliberately interfere in and disrupt life in a Warren not run in that way. And the main justification for that is that there are many unhappy females there whose lives are restricted and controlled in ways that go against their nature. If I were to replace the word females with women, would there be any situations in our world this could be applied to? On the other hand, Efrafa is, as it is described, blatantly a failing state, in which its own citizens, in private, say that the system is breaking down. It is fairly obvious that things cannot go on as they are. As it turns out, the actions of the Watership Down Warren changed things for the better in Efrafa, but that was never part of the plan, and might well not have been the outcome. In fact, let's face it, without Fiver's psychic abilities it would probably not have been. On a similar vein, a while ago I started benefiting from the assistance of John Ruths, who is in the US military, and whose regular notes provide a real help in making sure I don't miss anything. It was he who emphasised to me just how much Richard Adams' military experience seems to have influenced the book. For absolute clarity, when discussing such aspects of the book, it is not necessary to go into the rights and wrongs of specific military conflicts. It is perfectly valid to discuss the success or otherwise of military tactics used in the past without condoning or condemning the causes in which they were used. So, for example, I will not say that Bigwig's infiltration of Efrafa is an act of terrorism or the act of a freedom fighter. It is simply an act of guerrilla warfare, a kind of warfare used by a weaker enemy to defeat a stronger one, rightly or wrongly. I need to clarify the above in order to avoid causing any potential offence in the following episodes. The majority of being a soldier in an active war zone seems to be not about fighting, but about staying concealed and safe until you are ready to do what you need to get done. In this sense, the life of a rabbit can be compared to life in an active war zone. And there is no part of Watership Down that is more military in character than Part 3. Chapter 30. A New Journey. The opening quotation concerning the South Sea bubble does not really inspire much confidence in what the Watership Down rabbits are undertaking, but it does emphasise its secretive nature. Adams succinctly describes the group that sets off for Efrafa as being the same as that which left Sandalford Warren 5 weeks earlier, minus Buckthorn and plus Bluebell. Hazel's thinking at this point is well described, balancing an awareness of the nervousness of the party with their sense of mischief and their curiosity as to what the secret plan might be, as well as an unwillingness to be seen as a coward. Hazel's Henry V-like characteristics coming into play again. He does not feel the need to say any more to encourage them, and loyal Holly also keeps his counsel, having previously made his views clear on the risk of this venture, though he privately gives Hazel a final warning to be careful and not underestimate the Efrafan Owsla. The progress of this larger party on open downland is slower than Holly's small mission, and Hazel uses the sensible tactic of dividing them into 3 separate groups, each with its own leader, those being Silver, Bigwig and Hazel. We are told that the time of year is the transition from June to July, when natural cover is at its best. This provides Adams with another excuse for a wonderful description of downland plant life. It is also made clear that they only have this much cover because of the post-war agriculture of the Downs. I mentioned this in my latest film on the YouTube channel for this podcast, Return to the Lewis Downs. Hazel also realises that the frequent kestrels are no danger to a full-grown rabbit. Would he not have already known this? Sometime before Frith, or noon, they reach Caesar's Belt, the long straight wood that makes them nervous because it is obviously a result of human activity. It lies along part of a Roman road called the Portway, and a section of modern road runs along it nearby, which I plan to film on a site visit. The whole group gather before crossing the belt. It is mentioned that Bigwig has seemed preoccupied during the morning. Bluebell has overheard him talking to Hazel, Fiver and Blackberry, and it sounded as if he was being reassured. He had mentioned being more suited to fighting than something, but Hazel had assured him this was not the case, that he was the only one who could do it, and that everything depended on it. Hazel had stopped talking once he realised Bluebell could hear what he was saying. Hazel asked Bigwig if he could scout ahead to Caesar's Belt, calling him Efrafa, or King of Cats, due to his newfound talent for taking cats on in a fight, and asked Silver if they are now likely to be in the range of Efrafan wide patrols. Silver says that they probably are. Hazel makes it clear that he has bought this many rabbits because not one member of a wide patrol must make it back to Efrafa if they meet one. It is not said outright, but this means that they will all have to be killed. He also says that they are going to use Caesar's Belt to avoid wide patrols on the theory that the Efrafans might avoid it due to its human-made nature. Silver does not understand. He thought they were travelling to Efrafa, yet Caesar's Belt heads in the wrong direction, though not completely so. He makes it clear that they are going to find somewhere near Efrafa to hide. Silver says that this will not be easy and warns that wide patrols that spot them may not make themselves known, but just report back to Efrafa. The group move along Caesar's Belt for about half a mile to the west. There is a small wood or spinney, and beyond that a small downland valley or coombe, a word that survives into English from the pre-Saxon Celtic language that is used to describe valleys on downland. It is quite overgrown and provides a good cover. There, before sunset, Keehar meets them. He reports that Holly is sad and saying they will not make it back. Also that the doe Clover is, quote, ready for mudder, which has resulted in fights between the males. This is an aspect of rabbit behaviour in Watership Down that is only ever referred to remotely. We are never privy to the arguments that would presumably accompany such fights if rabbits could talk. Hazel makes it clear to Keehar that they need him to find somewhere for them to hide. Keehar suggests crossing the river to the south of Efrafa using a bridge, and Fiver comments that they should get there as quickly as possible. They are in danger all the time they are on this down. Hazel says they will travel at night, starting Fu Enley, or after moonrise. While they gather to wait until dark, Hazel notes how fresh they are all looking as a group, and in a far better state than during the journey to Watership Down. He decides some entertainment would be in order, and is about to ask Dandelion to tell them a story when Acorn saves him the trouble. A couple of light-hearted stories are suggested, but Bigwig interrupts. There is only one story he wants to hear. When it is pointed out to him that it might not be appropriate, he reacts angrily towards Hazel, saying that if anyone has the right to choose the story that is told, it is him. After an awkward pause, Dandelion begins. Next time, we hear the story of Elachera and the Black Rabbit of Inlay.